Good day, everyone. The idea of hell today is not as famous as Jennifer Lopez's making her first public appearance since filing for divorce from Ben Affleck, or that of Michael Keaton saying that he'll start to use his real name now. The Vatican too did not focus directly on hell, since its teachings emphasize more on salvation, human dignity, and the Church's role in the modern world. I would agree that even now, many of the Christians do not believe in hell, or that they deny the existence of hell. Or simply, people just don't like to discuss this hell thing. But there is a document published by the Sacred Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith on May 17, 1979, entitled Letter to the Bishops of the Catholic Church on Certain Questions Concerning Eschatology. This letter made clarifications on the Church's teachings about eschatology, that is, about the last things or the final events in human history and our final destiny. Topics about death, judgment, heaven, hell. And there are 2 paragraphs in this document that tackle about hell and the great possibility about hell. Now, what if there is hell? Was this for us, we may ask? What can death, judgment, heaven, or hell do in my present life? Here's the thing. If we do not follow the Mother Church's documents and letters, then this would be just a nonsense to us. But if we don't have any problems or issues about authority in our lives, we would follow what the Church's authority is teaching us, especially when the Pope speaks ex cathedra, or that is, when he speaks from his chair. The Holy Father, who is the successor of St. Peter, the first Pope who was entrusted by Christ the keys of the kingdom of heaven. If we try to look at our gospel today, Jesus speaks clearly about hell. In the 4 gospels, hell is mentioned by using the terms Gehenna or Hades. Also, we can read from Paul's second letter to the Thessalonians, his second letter to the Corinthians, his letter to the Romans about judgment. Even in the book of Revelation, we will read about eternal judgment. But we must know that these biblical passages do not have to happen literally. This is just a prophetic warning, cautioning us that something not good will happen to us if we keep on sinning. We will have our share in Gehenna or hell or whatever that frightening place is if we just keep on feeding our ego. If we are not compassionate, loving, and understanding to our neighbor. The dynamics of the devil is to keep us away from God. That is why Jesus is threatening us in a way about the reality of hell, because he wants us to be always in communion with him. God is love. That is why he wants us to be always with him. In the gospel, Jesus speaks harsh when he said about how to get rid of sinning. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. These are just metaphorical words, of course. But Jesus chose these words to emphasize the importance of cutting off sins in anything that leads us to sin in our lives. Jesus is pointing out that we discipline ourselves so we can be his true followers. To keep your distance, stand back, if that person is not your husband or wife, or to resign from workplaces where God's precepts are compromised. And these commands are more hurting, grievous, painful than cutting off literally our hands. We must sacrifice a lot if we must achieve our ultimate goal, which is to be a follower of Christ. We must be violent. We must be ruthless in removing wicked deeds in our lives so that we won't get stuck in sinfulness. That is why, even if this is an arduous choice in becoming a bona fide disciple of Christ, it won't be that hard if we put ourselves in a perspective of eternity. Eternal life must be at the center of our hearts and minds. Let us ask the grace of God, the grace of enlightenment and courage. Enlightenment to look at our situations in life and do something about it for the better. And the courage to decide that need to cut off the roots of all evil influences in our lives. So let us work out for our salvation by means of our sacrifices and endeavors. Let us not forget that heaven is where we are heading, not in hell.